So let's get into it. What is going on in Iran? So everybody knows, essentially, that a woman was walking down the street. You know, imagine your sister, your cousin, young girl, and she had some hair exposed. Pretty much everybody does. Unless they're like very religious and conservative, most women wear their scarves like halfway on. That's just like how they rock it, because they're required to. Walking down the street, gets pulled over by this so-called morality police, and with this new president, things are stricter with this president, and the president is just a puppet. It's just a fucking puppet. This is a dictatorship. And the morality police, which is basically like a secret police, pulls her over, takes her into custody, beats the fucking living shit out of her. She goes into a coma and she dies. That's happening. Like that actually, that's not the first one either. This stuff happens. And, you know, it was one of my cousins said this to me. He's like, Armand, just imagine like a boiling cup of water, and they added one more fucking drop to that boiling cup of water, and it is exploding. That's really what's happening here. Yes, this is about women's rights. Yes, this is about human rights and the atrocities that have been going on in this country for so long. But these people have had enough. Times 10. And the people that are out in the streets protesting this are young, 20-year-olds with aggression, energy, and this is the straw that broke the camel's back. And this was the last straw for them. This was it. It was like in a climate where, and I think that it's so funny how things are interrelated. COVID, the pandemic, George Floyd. I think all of these precursors actually have made this moment possible. Massively. Because if it wasn't for the world watching what happened in the United States, which I think was for a different reason, it was for a specific reason, and it evolved into something that got very confusing, but it still stood as a framework for, hey, when something is over the line and enough is enough, people now have a model for how to show up in the streets and get results. And you could argue George Floyd got tremendous results for society and moving things in the right direction, at least in the United States. And in Iran, this is not about this individual case. This is about 43 years, if not even longer, of just absolute human rights atrocities and these people living in a prison, and they have had enough. And these young people that are out in the streets are kind of like me in the sense that they've been hearing these stories their entire lives, and they are filled with anger because they have been told about the glory of what Iran and the Persian culture is and used to be, and how they are living under a rock, and how this is just completely fucked. And they're filled with anger, and that's why they're out in the streets. But there's also a lot of hope. So there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of pent-up emotion in every way in that country right now. There's a lot of optimism, but there's also a lot of fear because no one knows what's coming next. No one knows if this is even going to be successful. No one knows how many people are going to have to die for this to happen. One thing that I think it's very important context to understand about this country. I cannot understate how proud these people are of their culture. These are almost just, it's absolutely crazy how ingrained poetry, music, philosophy, mathematics, architecture, beauty is in the culture of these people. And I say that they're proud today, even given that this world that they're living in. So you have to imagine how proud they used to be when it was an open society, when they were able to display their good nature, their art, their whatever they had to the world before 1979, when this revolution happened. and this latest regime has been in power. Even still, they are proud. So you have to understand, these mullahs, the Ayatollah, these group of religious leaders that somehow got into power in this country, they have one goal, and that is to eradicate all of the pride around the Persian culture that these people have. They want nothing to do with any of that. They don't even like Nowruz. They don't like Persian New Year. They don't like the history of places like Persepolis. They don't support it. They don't fund it. They want to get rid of everything, because what do they care about? Using this fucking religion as a excuse to use and abuse and rule a group of people and take them back. You know, there's a famous video I posted on Instagram. It's like they asked the Shah, and again, I'm not like some big monarchy Shah supporter, and we'll talk about this, Eric, when we talk about history, but it's like, yes, things were better, but they weren't great before the revolution. That's obviously why there was a revolution. But they asked the Shah, they're like, you know, what's going to happen if this Ayatollah, if this religious figure takes over from you? And the Shah means king, right? They asked the Shah, what's going to happen? And he's like, it will take this country back 1,500 years.